Welcome, welcome. This is Lee, the Cold War Prepper, and we're going to be talking about mental health in a post-apocalyptic world. We originally had 5 panel members that were going to be here with us tonight. We've got one still to join us. Who's your prepping nurse? We do have Sassy Gal Prepping here with us now, and I'll let her introduce herself. I do want to apologize. We've had some illness in our panel group, and there's that bug is going around. So make sure you take care of yourself. But Prepper Dog is down with the crud, and so he will not be with us this evening. We do have Prepping with Sarge. He said he might be able to help us for the first couple minutes. I believe he's in chat. But he's also down, so we need to make sure that we have them in our prayer list, that we're taking care of their health. The other one is Lori's what is it? Thrifty. Lori's Thrifty Kitchen. And Lori had to rush to the hospital, and as a result of that, she is now in a rehab facility. And so they put her in a semi-private room. She does not want to disturb her roommate. So she has decided that she will be in chat as well. So two of our 5 panel members are going to be in chat. And we're only going to have one for right now on, and that is Sassy Gal Prepping. And so I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of a summary of what it is we'll be talking about. And hopefully we'll have Lori and Prepping with Sarge able to throw in their comments here in the chat. So make sure you pay very close attention to the chat. So Sassy Gal Prepping, if you'll just give us a little bit about yourself and some of your knowledge about this subject we'll be discussing this evening.
Yeah, so I'm Sassy Gal Preppin', and what does Sassy Gal have to do with mental health? I have a long background in addiction and recovery counseling. I'm a faith-based addiction counselor, and I've been doing that for 17 years. And I also work with women who are in trauma, and I'm an advocate for women of domestic violence and abuse situations. And then recently was last summer, I became a certified mental health first aid responder. So that's good for 3 years. What does that mean? It just means that I just went through some classes to be better prepared and certified to be able to help people who might be, going through a situation or having some trouble, and they might need someone to talk to. And we're there, to be there, to help point them in the right direction and give them that safe space to land. So thank you, Lee, for having me on tonight.
So thank you very much, Sassy Gal. So let me kind of explain where we are and what we're doing. If you have the opportunity to get certified as a mental health first aid responder, please do so. I think it's 8 hours that I had to go through. But some fantastic training about how we are an intermediary. As we were talking before the show, and I was telling Sassy Gal, we're kind of like the aspirin you give before you get to the emergency room. That's a mental health first aid responder. So we are taught to identify, understand, and respond to certain mental stressors and try to calm a person down until a skilled professional arrives and can handle the situation. So the only thing we're trained to do is to not make the situation worse. So we want to stabilize the situation or make it a little bit better. So how do I know? How does this old fart know this stuff? Well, you forget that, for 3 years, I was the HR director for the 3rd largest homeless shelter in the U.S. And of course, in the homeless community, there is a very, very large percentage of people who have mental health conditions and need counseling on a regular basis. And so Sassy Gal and I are both coming at this kind of from the same direction. in that we've been exposed to people who have been put under extreme stressors. So let me start first with some of the things that we identify, so we can kind of take a look at people when we are identifying somebody who's undergoing stress. So I want to put this in the sense of a post-apocalyptic world. So some of the things that you'll notice that a person who is undergoing extreme emotional or mental trauma is they're going to have intense or unpredictable feelings. They can be anxious, overwhelmed. They can even be stoic. They can be grief-stricken. They can be just in a total shutdown mode. They could have changes to their thoughts and behavior patterns. And so they might be reliving old things. They might be creating a new reality in their mind. You're going to see some physiological changes to the body. Could be sweating, rapid heartbeat, nervous gestures, head twitch, or a body twitch, or anything like that. You may see another reaction might be sensitivity to intense environmental factors. You can also see how this is going to be a catalyst later on to bringing them back to that same state. So, for example, I had one of the worst things I ever did as an ambulance attendant was picking up a burn victim. And so that smell of a burn victim, you ever smell that once and you smell it a second time, that's going to bring back a torrent of emotional memories of that first event. And we call those triggers. And so another thing is it can also be suppressed and then come back as a strained emotional or relationship, strained interpersonal relationship type of a deal. People withdraw, and even from the people that want to give them the greatest amount of support, which could be us. And then, of course, there's going to be all those stress-related physiological things that go on with the body. So those are some of the things you might want to look for. So now, those are some of the things we want to look for as far as identifying it. And so, Sassy Gal, what are some of the things we can do to help a person to understand the situation? And maybe it's in a post-traumatic environment where we need to get them to do something, or it could cause bodily harm to either them or to someone else if they don't start taking some sort of action. What can we do to try to bring them back to a sense of reality? I think I lost you. Let me.
Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to clear my throat earlier and I forgot to unmute. So,
Okay.
But yeah, so just approaching someone, not with the intention to try to solve anything, just trying to talk to them and just try to just ask them questions. I see that you might be experiencing something right now. Would you like to talk about it? If they're talking to you and they start to share some things, one of the first things I've always have just worked, even with my own kids, is just let's just take a breather. Let's just, calming, getting your breath to calm you down is huge for them and you as well. But just getting them to take a little bit of a breather, maybe actually pulling them over to the side. If you're, in a crowded room, you can, hey, let's go over here and sit down for a minute, creating a calm, comfortable atmosphere with them, speaking in a calm manner, just, being that safe place for them to land, like I was saying earlier, just to be able to know that you're a safe person to talk to, not coming at them with a harsh tone or a condescending attitude or anything like that, but just, hey, I just want to help you out. I just want to talk to you. I see that you might be struggling here a little bit. Would you like to talk about it? Can I help you? Is there someone that I can call for you? Is, just letting them know that you are there just to help and to be, a friend is just the first thing. Because a lot of times when people are going through something, they just need to breathe for a minute and help them sort them things out. You can help ask them questions. If they've ever had these situations before, or these feelings or these scenarios. I think I already said, is there someone that you can call for them. But just kind of getting them into removing them from, like, changing their scenery, removing them from the situation that they're in, and getting them into more of a quiet place, separated, is a huge first start.
And I think Sassiel's hitting on something that's really critical here. So let's take a scenario of we're in a building that has undergone an earthquake and it's collapsing around us. So one of the things we may want to do is we need to project what we want them to feel. So we need to be the one who is projecting a sense of, I know what's going on. I know how to react to this properly. Grab a hold of my belt or hold on to my arm. They need something stable that they're going to hold on to. And you have to provide the leadership. So I think the critical thing that she's talking about here is we've got to be the stable force in this environment. We can't be dictatorial. People will react to things differently, but we need to come across as being firm, but we need to be reassuring in that firmness. We don't need to be domineering, let's say.
That's good. Yeah.
Sassiel, how would you describe the persona that we need to take on in this kind of a situation?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's like you want to be a leader, you want to be, but not be the dictator per se. You're coming alongside someone, because maybe we're in this together. Or I always like the analogy of, well, not the analogy, but when you're in a situation, emergency in a plane, and the oxygen masks come down, in order for you to be able to help anyone, you have to put your mask on first, so that you'll be able to, be breathing freely, and and then you're able to calmly help other people. And you're also demonstrating that leadership. I'm putting my mask on. You need to get it on too. Like, we all got to be breathing here so that we can be calm. And so some of that, like, if you are having that knowledge of knowing how to handle yourself in a situation, just by demonstrating you're demonstrating by leadership, I guess, in a way, or you're leading by demonstrating, I guess that's what I want to say, how we're going to be calm in this situation. We don't have to, be telling people what they need to do. It's just like, hey, come this way,
So there's this famous model, and I forget the name of it. It's not Joe Harry's window. That's a different model, but it's the same. It looks the same. But there's two columns and there's two rows. And so one column is I know, and the other column is I don't know. And then the rows are I know and I don't know. So the first one is I know what I know. So there are certain things we can take a class. Okay, we can take a class and study the theory of I know what I know I should be doing as a mental health first aid person. And then there's I don't know what I know. Okay, so I don't know how I'll react when this kind of thing comes along.
That's true.
And so then I know what I don't know. I don't know how that person's going to react or perceive me. Okay, but the model is going to be correct in the training that I received the vast majority of the time. And then the bad thing is I don't know what I don't know. And so that's an assumption. And that is, how am I going to act? Will I act appropriately given the training and given the situation and everything else? We want to minimize that the most we can. So having discussions like we're having here tonight expands that I know what I know, because we're preparing ourselves for what we need to know in the future. I want to talk about this one, and Prepping with Sarge is talking about flashbacks and things like that. And I think we need to check this one for a bit. For long-term relief, to get the flashbacks to stop, it's going to be necessary to go back into the trauma mentally, usually with a
EMDR therapist.
TFCBT. Help me with that.
Cognitive behavioral therapy. You're type that out, Sarge, in the chat.
So emergency mental
I know what they are, but I can't actually, it's one of those things when you learn what the acronyms are, and then so you know what it is, but I can't actually spew it out. But reframe the thought. I've heard Sarge talk about this too. It's, hang on a second. Sorry, acronyms. TFCBT equals trauma focused. Oh, he put it. Okay, I was getting confused. Trauma focused cognitive behavioral therapy. And let's see, does he say anything else? And then EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. He goes in a little bit deeper than anything I've ever done. I do have cognitive behavioral therapy training, but that is, you are literally like retraining the brain to look at things from a different perspective. And the brain can be retrained, so that your situation is, he says you have to go back into the trauma mentally and reframe the thought. So part of the healing is having to actually face your fear, for instance, right? You have to actually face it so that you can say, yes, you're going to identify it. This is what it is. But then you're going to reframe it and say, but because I know what that is, and then you're going to train yourself to more respond than react.
And so that's that window pane that I was talking about, is we want to open that up. So if we can react more appropriately to something that we're having flashbacks on, if we can go back to it and reframe it as something that we know that we survive it, we know that things are going to be okay afterwards. So we have to reframe that in our mind, go back and relive it and reframe it, and then come back in.
So like it's like you're saying, I know. So like, okay, somebody says, I don't know. I'm hoping that I can put this into an example that would make sense. So let's say there's particular words that when I hear them, they trigger me. I don't like them. So let's say one of them's the F word. So when someone says the F word around me, and I just, it triggers something in me. But I know within me, I know what that is. I understand it. So I can tell myself I'm having a reaction to this, and that's okay. I know that is my reaction. I can own that. So I'm not blaming the other person for saying the F word, right? It's because it's not their fault. I'm the one that has the trigger. I can own my emotion, and then I can say, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong. I just realized that I am having a response. So then I can take a minute and say, okay, give that situation, that feeling, the space, and say, yep, I'm having a response to this, but I'm good. I'm okay. And then I can put it away and move on. So I think that might be very generic.
No, that's exactly what we need. That's exactly what we need.
But being able to name that, saying, like that, when I hear that, and I know what it stems from, something from my past, and I'm like, but this isn't my past. I'm here in the present, and I'm okay. It's just a word. I'm having a response to it, and I own that. Okay. And thank you emotions for, being there, guarding me, and then I can move on. So I know it sounds really easy doing that. Sometimes it's very hard because it took a long time to get to that place.
Well, and it's not something that's going to happen in just one instant or in one discussion. That's something that can take a while. We've got a question from Tracy. It says, question, if you see something awful or on TV, how do you just ignore it? And so my answer to that, Tracy, is you don't. Your mind is going to file that. So there are a couple of things. You can accept it, which can, to some people, appear to be less than caring. You can prepare for that emotionally, knowing that there's a chance it's going to happen ahead of time, and then react to it in a way where you're being interactive and trying to resolve the issue. Or your mind just shuts down and you pretend like you didn't see it, and then it comes back to you later as a flashback. So there's a couple ways that can happen. I think that dealing with some of the women and the trauma that she has seen women go through, that Sassy probably has a pretty good example of how that happens in real life with women who have experienced real trauma. So if you can generalize that for us, Sassy Gal, that would be fantastic.
You mean this question right here? Like,
Yeah.
if you see, okay, so I see this in two parts, or in two different questions, because seeing something awful in real life versus seeing something on TV, I mean, unless it's the news, unless the news is showing you, like, I saw something awful and I was watching something, a video on Twitter, and I didn't realize what it was until I saw it, and it bothered me for a couple days. So I don't, and then I couldn't ignore it because it was bothering me, because it was a real event. But if it's like, if it's like just a TV, I don't know, a TV episode, but if you're thinking of something that's real on TV, or in real life, it's hard because it sticks. It could either trigger something in you depending on what your emotional state was. Things stick with us based on emotions and stuff, so they'll either stick for a long time depending on the event and what was going on. But anyway, I wouldn't say to just ignore it. Nothing ever gets accomplished or solved if you're just constantly sweeping your emotions or sweeping your feelings under the rug. In the Christian community that was from, I didn't leave the Christian community. It's just part of the church that I was involved in. That's just how things were dealt with. It was just like, you're not supposed to feel these things. You're not supposed to do this. If you just push everything under the rug, you push it under and you just pray it away. And while that may sound good and true on paper, or people could point to verses, nothing ever gets solved by just pushing it under the rug. You have to actually understand, like we're saying, visit the trauma. You have to understand, what is triggering? You saw this and it bothered you. Why is it bothering me? Well, because of this reason. Well, why is that? You just keep kind of going down and keep asking yourself, why this, and then why this, and why that. And pretty soon you're going to get to the actual thing, is why you're really bothered by that. So I wouldn't say just ignore it. Just
we call it the 5 whys.
Yes,
you have
exactly.
to ask why 5 times.
The 5 whys. Yep. And you'll get to the actual root of the issue. If you are willing to do that with yourself, and if you're allowing to have someone do that with you, meaning if you have a therapist do it with you, or if you're having even just a very good trusted friend who, like us, we know how to ask these questions and be patient and just kind of work through with someone. But the individual has to be willing too. You have to be willing to kind of go deep, go down under the water and get to the bottom of the iceberg to figure out what's going on and why you're triggered.
Yep. And Tracy, I feel for you there.
Okay.
That's a national thing that's going on. I will tell you, the single event on TV that caused the greatest emotional trauma was in The Walking Dead. And at the end of one season, in the beginning of the next, what was his name? Not Neelix, but
Negan.
Negan.
Yeah, we're all talking about the same thing.
Yep. Yeah, Negan took a baseball bat to one character at the end of one season, and then took a baseball bat to another character at the beginning of Glenn at the beginning of the next season. And those
Spoiler
2
alert.
episodes caused the most emotional trauma in the U.S. of any television show ever. And and both were extremely graphic. So I think both of those exceeded what we see that we're seeing with Tyre. Not to diminish Tyre, but Tyre is of course a very traumatic thing, and our minds can't conceive of the people that we trust to take care of us in a bad situation acting bad themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole thing, is that the emotional trauma is losing trust in somebody that we thought we could trust.
Oh gosh, that's awful.
So
that's awful. especially if it's happening to you personally or on an intimate level. Not that any of it is good. I'm not trying to classify one is worse than the other or that, because I don't want to minimize anything. But but yeah, when it's someone that, if it cuts deep, if it was some person like a parent, or a spouse, and you trust them and they betray you on such a deep level, it's very hard to recover, because it's a parent, or
Yeah.
those are the ones I hear from women a lot. It was a father or a mother, or it was a spouse, it was usually a husband, and those cut deep.
Oh yeah, those are all positions of supposed trust,
Yeah.
and the
Yep.
trust gets violated. So you've got
Yep.
two
Mm-hmm.
things that are going on. You've got the actual
Yep.
perpetration, but
Mm-hmm.
then you've also got the violation of trust. And so,
Yep. And then
that's
if you throw the church into it, I'm sorry, I bash churches sometimes, but the reality is that all of that can be tied, and they throw God into the mix and say that you're to suffer for God, or you're to, that kind of thing. That just distorts it even more, and now you've got a spiritual level added on to that, and it now no wonder so many people are, so confused and.
yeah, we don't want to compound the problem, and quite often
Absolutely.
faith-based things can do that by making a person feel guilty. And in especially in some of these women cases,
Yes.
there's already an amount of
Mm-hmm.
guilt that we don't want to build onto. We want to
Mm-hmm.
relieve some of that guilt rather than compound it or exacerbate it. Let me go
Yeah.
through here and
Yeah.
welcome some of the people who are here watching with us. I think we got a lot of your fans here, Sassy Gal. So we've
Oh,
got,
come on. They're fans of you too.
gosh, I didn't realize there's been that much conversation.
Oh, yeah. They've
Okay.
been going to town. I can't see all of it, but.
So Lori's here, Triple G Farms, Tracy McInfuss, welcome. Prepping with Sarge, of course, is here. Little Lone Prepper, welcome. Triple G Farms, I already said that. And let me see here. Stray Kitten, wow, Middle Monday. Yep, there you go. Dave Simmons, welcome. Good to see you. Jay Creature and Loretta Hutch. Linda Bopp, hello, Linda. USMC 935, hello, Amy. Stray Kitten. Joseph G. Let me see. Just finished watching a live stream with, what is that? Tag Life done for free? Don't know what that is. Dragon Slayer, welcome. Jay Creature, thank you for the donation. And we've got another donation
GGG
up here.
Farms. Yay, look at those.
Triple
Go
G
Lee.
Farms.
Go Lee.
Triple G Farms is just fantastic. I've got to get up there and buy him a cup of coffee. He's only an hour away from me.
Oh, yeah.
Loretta Hutch, Virginia Bushcrafter, I think I said, let me see, Prepping by Faith, another great channel. The Sassy Gal put one out today on how she artificially made some cream for her coffee in a post-apocalyptic world.
Y'all need to go watch my Sassy Saturdays.
And then Prepping by Faith, I put out a video a little while ago about the Vesta Instafire heater. And Prepping by Faith let me know today that she has received hers. She ordered it and received it. And so I challenged her to do a video if she has to use it, because it was like -20, I think, in Colorado when we were chatting earlier today. And she is freezing. It's only freezing here, but
we got up to 60 today.
Did you?
Yeah, we did.
I tell you, you guys in Virginia, let me tell you. Stray Kitten, Jay Creature, I think we're pretty much caught up there. Let me see here. Oh, Steel Roz. Hi, Steel Roz. Welcome. Okay. So let's get back on topic here. So let's talk about a little bit of the faith-based. And what are some of the things you would typically be, what are some of the things you would typically say under a faith-based assistance type of a program? Alpine Preparedness. Hi. And Alpine Preparedness had a great one out today, and that was her husband was heating up the cabin of his helicopter and showing us
Oh
what
yeah.
it's like to try to heat up the inside of a helicopter at -20 in Canada. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on. Okay, so how would you help with a faith-based type of initiative?
Okay, so something specific, like see where I'm used to coming talking with someone, usually I find out, you know, if they even have any kind of faith at all. So it's not just what I believe, because not everybody believes the same thing that I do. But if they have something, if they have a higher power that they would tap into, or something that, those are things that I would ask them. Is there something, or um, I don't know, prayers that you do? Just trying to get on to know them on the level of things that they do, if they're practicing, if they're a, what do you want to call them, like a practicing Christian or a
Mhm.
practicing Catholic? I don't know, that kind of thing. Or are they, are they Muslim? Are they Jewish? Do they have these, their prayers? Do they have someone that they go to? Because that's what I would recommend, if they have a spiritual advisor, a pastor, or like I said, all these other different religions, that they could go with them, encourage them, because sometimes, people just, they get away from their church, or their routine, their spiritual routine. That can actually set a lot of people off kilter. 2020 was a big time when, like, almost all the churches in America shut down, and that threw a lot of people off.
Mhm.
It threw a lot of religious
And they
leaders
still
off
haven't
as well.
recovered from it.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't. Um, and So yeah, that people didn't know, what to do, because then they weren't meeting in the building anymore. So a lot of, so that's the face of church has changed a lot in the last few years. And I think a lot of people were questioning themselves and their faith, and just, what is this all about? So it's, talking with a lot of people was just trying to get them grounded into what they know, what were they doing, if they have a Bible, if they have a Torah, if they have, the Quran or something, get back to the root of what you were doing, and I say your routine. I always have devotions that I do every morning, and prayer, and just certain things that I do. That's what I do. And when I get away from that and I just ignore it, and I just decide to just, do my day, I get grumpy. I get grumpy when I don't, get in my
Yeah.
Bible and get with the Lord and stuff, and so that is it's calming for me. It sets my mind right, for me. And but yeah, I'm not consulting with my Lord, it's I get grumpy, and yeah.
So just so there's no
Anyway,
opportunity for confusion, it is not Christians and Catholics. Um, Remember that until Martin Luther posted his thesis, there was only the Catholic Church.
oh, that's what it
And
was for
and
like
then
all
Martin
time.
Luther broke
Hmm.
off from the Catholic Church. So
Hmm.
for
He did.
1,000.
All right, now y'all can't leave me here by myself. Lee, did you freeze up? Is it me? Do y'all see? Well, until Lee unfreezes there, we figure out what's going on. Triple G Farms, I just happened to see your comment, or your down here. It says, do
500.
church-based.
So it's
Whoop,
not.
are you back?
Yep, I'm
Okay, good. Oh no! Oh my gosh, it's just me. Okay. Until Lee decides to join back his own stream. I was okay. So who I was talking to Triple G Farms here. Do church-based counseling have the same privacy commitments and rules that a private paid therapist would have? And yes, Triple G Farms, we have, yes, same privacy commitments. So like when I was having women in my group every Friday night, we had a group session where we talked together. But if there was individual, that's just between that woman and me. I didn't counsel any men. It was just that woman and me. And that was it. And if anything ever, the only time anything ever came up is if there was something serious where they were thinking of, doing some harm to themselves, is the only time I would, well, not the only time, but just that would be one instance that I would, report something and get some help. So
Sorry,
anyway,
y'all.
welcome back, Lee.
No, I have a MacBook and I have an iPhone. So my MacBook, I can answer my phone on the computer. So when I get a phone call, sometimes unless I turn off the phone, it gets answered, or they try to answer it here on the computer. And I'm sorry for that, people.
No, that's
But anyhow,
that was fun. I'm like, oh, I'm on your stream.
So the Russians say "Говно является," and the Germans say "Scheiße stimmt," and the Spanish say "Mierda pasada," and in English we say "Poo-poo happens." So, but anyhow, so I kind of back to the conversation there. I'm on the committee for St. Vincent de Paul, which is the Catholic version of Goodwill. So the assumption is that if somebody calls us and asks for help, that they are Catholic. And that's not always the case, because, one friend tells another friend, hey, you can call these people and they're going to give you this or help you with this or help you with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you start asking questions and you find out that a lot of times people are less than honest if they're in need of something in order to get what they need.
Yep.
One of the things we found out, for example, in the homeless community, that we really are there to service 20% of the population, the 20% who are temporarily in a state of homelessness.
Okay.
80% of the homeless population really are chronic homeless, and that is they are self-professed addicts or have mental problems and probably should be medicated or institutionalized. So, we think of the solution being for the 20%, but the vast majority don't fit that model of the solution that we're trying to provide. So that's why it's so critical that we identify, people, because this is where it's going to become important as well, is people are going to try to scam you by playing a victim in a post-apocalyptic world. So, they realize that, and this may be controversial, but this is my point of view. Human beings are intrinsically good until something causes them not to be good. So we want to care for our fellow human being. We care for them. We want to see them do well. And people are willing to take advantage of that, whether that be abusing you as far as taking things you're willing to give, abusing free things that are being given by society or anything else. But there are people out there who will abuse it. However, don't let that stop you from providing to the people who really do need it, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes. We dealing with people who are in recovery. We had addictions ministries. We had people coming out of the jail into our program. You said a lot right there, Lee. I mean, a lot of them, they don't know who to trust. They don't know if they can trust themselves. And then they're coming in. A lot of people don't even trust the church, because maybe most likely they've been burned. And I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of people. They've been burned by some church or some member or something. And not that was the whole reason, but that just, they were like, well, the church doesn't do anything for me. And I would say, yeah, you're right. The church doesn't, but Jesus does. And so it's not about the church. It's not about the people. It's not about a pastor. It's about Jesus. And that's what we're here to tell you, that there's hope in Jesus. It's, if you look into a church or any kind of an institution really to help you, i.e. the government or, or a church or whatever. It's not the institution that's going to help you. It's as far as faith-based goes, Jesus is going to help you, but you also have to do, your part as well. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think I know what I got onto that because you were saying about people scamming you or using you. And yes, that happened a lot. We would pour our hearts out to these people, help them with things. And for a while there, you think they're going to make it. And then they disappear from the program, and they would either, they're just coming in because they need to get that paper signed for the judge, or they're coming in, they don't care. They got to get this one thing done so they can get their license back. So, we know,
Yep.
we
Yep.
understand. And they do that, but you're right. But you said like not all of them will. There are people that truly do want help, and those people will come and they will recover. So anyway.
And then there's also that group who need help but are too proud to ask for it.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And so I think that's another part of that mental health equation that we're talking about in a post-traumatic environment. There are going to be people who are in need of help, both physically and emotionally, and they won't tell you, they won't let you know. And so being able to identify those people and provide something to them is going to be critical, because they're the ones that with just a little bit of effort can really come a long way.
And I think a lot of people are afraid of the stigma that comes along with, I'll just talk something very generic like depression or anxiety, which is very common. People have some type of depression or I'll just use that one. At some point in their life, they will have some kind of a mental health situation. Sure. Right? Yeah, they'll have some kind of mental health situation in their life. When you think of someone that you lose a loved one, for example, all right, well, there you go. There's you lose your job, or we all just talked about 2020, and nobody knowing what's going on or what to do and that kind of thing. So we're all going to have some kind of a situation, a mental health situation. So at some point, so we, and I lost track of where we were going with that because I just saw a comment. Oh my gosh, I need help, y'all. Okay.
And I think Sarge is supporting where you were going.
Yeah, okay, maybe that was it. Yeah, sometimes we see this other phenomenon when someone is doing well, nearly completed treatment, but won't come back to finish off the last bit. Yeah. Well, yeah, hard to say goodbye. Maybe, yeah, maybe so.
I've seen the same thing with bipolar disorder, where people will take medication for bipolar disorder, and it will help them to such a great extent that they think they're okay and don't have to take the medication anymore, that they've been healed, not realizing that it's a chronic situation that needs an ongoing input of medication. And so,
and also we would have those in our group too, people that were in that diagnosed with that, it's like we came alongside them. So I believe in treating the person holistically. So you get physical, mental, and spiritual, so you get the body and you get the mind and the spirit, and all of them get treated together. I don't think you can really do a person justice by just treating something physically without coming along and taking care of mental and spiritual, because they all go together. So
Joseph, I'm going to support you, but I'm going to disagree at the same time. And I think the problem is not that so much that they have no desire to change, is that they don't know how to change or what to change to. So the whole thing is, if we have to go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so let's take a drug addict. A drug addict knows that a fix currently relieves the pain of that situation, but they can't think far enough ahead to go to level 2, looking for something stable for tomorrow, or to level 3. They're stuck in that constant live for now. So they don't know what to change to. And if they did know what the ultimate change to was, they don't know how to get there. And Sassy Gal, your thoughts on that?
I agree. It's hard. Sometimes people would say that what he just said about the people that would leave our program. Okay, well, I guess they didn't really want it. But I think you said a good point, Lee. Is I don't think they know what to change to or what the end goal is supposed to be. We had a lady come in one time who had just come out of a methadone clinic, so she was like clean without anything in her for the first time in her life, and she came in and she looked completely afraid. I don't think she ever knew what living a clean life was like. And so that was huge. You think, well, wow, this is great, you're cured or something, but no, she just, so that took a lot of counseling, and because she just didn't know what that was like. And some people don't get there, and even then she felt and honestly said to us that it was easier, or it was more comfortable going back to where she was before, because that's all she's known. So maybe that's why some people think that people don't have a desire to change, is because maybe it's not that, it's just it's easier to be this way versus being something that's new. It's just foreign.
So, Alexandra, I want to address this question and get Sassy Gal to throw in on it as well. But I'm going to give you a couple things there, and one of them is going to be frustration. I think some people are waking up and not prepping because they think they're too late, and they feel that no matter what they do, it's not going to be enough to where it's going to help them survive. So it's a feeling of frustration that they woke up too late, didn't wake up soon enough, and didn't do it. Then I want to go into there's a religious group of people who feel that they are not going to have to experience what everybody's going to be experiencing. And they claim to have biblical proof of it. And I would be willing to argue with them on that at any time. But they feel that they aren't going to have to experience it, so there's no need to prep for it. So those are two groups that specifically know something needs to be done and are saying, I don't have to do anything. I can't do anything quickly enough, and I don't need to do anything. Sassy Gal, your thoughts?
Okay. So you brought up, that's good, Lee. You brought up, first of all, they think that they may be late to the game, so why bother? But then also, why bother? Because I'm not going to be here for this, right? Is that kind of, which is dangerous on both sides, because we don't know how long. I mean, if we're Christians and we're all saying that we're going to be raptured out, or we're not going to be here, whatever term you want to use for that. Okay. Don't want to get into a religious argument, but we all agree that if we're not going to be here for this, well, then how long are we going to be here for this? Because we don't know how much of what's going to happen this year. We don't know. We don't know if something's going to happen tomorrow, if something's going to happen, in June or in December. We don't, and we also don't know how bad things are going to get, before if we're taken out of here. If I'm not going to be here for this, well, okay, fine. You're not going to be here for this, but how long are you going to be here before you're not going to be here for this? You have to be, we have to be prepared at least, 6 months out, because we can all see, even looking back from the past year to today, we can all see that there's less food on the shelves. There are higher prices, gas is higher, we all know, and people don't have jobs. We can see that, if you're not doing something, I think it's just an excuse because you don't want to face something. That's me.
No, I think you're spot on. Time
to be sassy, y'all. It's time to face the music.
Unfortunately, sometimes reality is sassy. That's all there is to it. Yeah, and Dragon Slayer,
Yes.
concerning your remark about Matthew 24, and I think, people
Yeah.
are really good about wars and rumors of wars. You hear that an awful lot. You hear an awful lot about Gog and Magog. What people forget is, I think it's Matthew 24. Oh gosh, I was going to say 30, but I'm not 100% sure. And it says that the word must reach the entire world before
Yes.
these things will come to fruition. So, and people forget that part, is that we
And do
haven't
we know
preached
when
the
that
gospel
is?
to the entire world yet. So, the end's nowhere close until we get. It says that the gospel must be preached to the entire world before these
Right.
things will begin.
And that's right. And we don't have an exact date as to when that
Nope,
is,
nope.
because the Bible also says that we will not know the time nor the hour when Jesus will come. So, until then, we need to do what we need to do about
Yep.
preparing for the dry season that we know is coming. God gave us discernment. He gave us a brain. He gave us smarts, and we lean on him, and he'll show us. He'll give us that discernment to be able to see, what's in the news. We can see what's coming. We're not dumb. Y'all ain't dumb.
One of the things that was said as a homily once that really struck me was, we spend an awful lot of time asking. Yeah, we don't spend very much time waiting for the answer.
That is so true.
And
Yep,
so
that's so true.
sometimes you have to be quiet to hear the answer. But anyhow, Jay
Yes.
Creature says, I feel like with the pack mentality, no one is going to participate in mental health exercises post SHTF. I think there's going to be victims and survivors, and he hopes he's wrong. I hope you're wrong too.
I hope so. I hope you're wrong too.
I have a feeling that this is another one of those wishes versus realities. And, so I can see somebody, let's say, with bipolar disorder or with extreme anxiety or something like that, that is, or is in an aggressive mood, that might be dealt with rather swiftly and terminally, rather than being more understanding or seeking to understand where that person's coming from. People are going to, I think, in a post SHTF environment, people are going to be very quick judges. Is how?
No, I know you. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's like instant judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More reactive
Yeah.
than contemplative. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way. And so a person who is not in the right state at that time may come across in a way that appears to be threatening to somebody, and they're going to deal with that as they perceive it to be a threat. And I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. And unless those of us who are aware that there are these kinds of issues out there can grab a hold of them and bring them into our fold and take care of them like a mother hen, I don't think there's going to be very much empathy or understanding of those with mental disabilities, and how we will be taking care of them after SHTF.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're going to also, people of faith even will have to reconcile their faith with a lot of things if there is a true SHTF scenario. I'm thinking of something like 1 Second After in that book. And I was just thinking, when they're really trying to start and deal with law and order, they had to take care of things swiftly, like you were just saying. And here you are having to reconcile some of your faith or the things that you believed in. They're either, those things are gone, everything is new. And yeah, I don't know. That's like, you've got instant justice, you've got other things that have to be, you're dealing with rationing food probably, and these kinds of things. It's going to be tough. Having to exercise, or even helping. How far do you help someone in a situation like something in 1 Second After, when you have limited supplies and you want to be the good Christian and help your neighbor, but I'm sorry, I don't have enough to help you. I'm taking care of my family. That's going to be a big one.
And the same thing with punishing crime. So
Yeah, too.
I mean,
Mhm.
we won't have jails. And so what do
Yeah,
you do? Do
yeah,
you tie them up to a post and whip them and make them even more anti-you? Do you
yeah.
ostracize them and then they go out and tell people the secrets of what you have inside? I mean, there are going to be some very difficult decisions to make. And
Yep, yep.
that so crime and how you deal with crime and how you punish it and how you take care of victims is going to be very important. And
Mhm,
so
mhm,
Alexander the Great says famine is coming and it's going to be bad or worse than I agree. And so one of the things I'm very fun. So we talked about Matthew 24. The very next chapter is Matthew 25, of course, and that's where he talks about the 10 virgins.
Oh,
And
I love that
then he,
one.
then he
Mhm.
also talks at the end of Matthew 25. I think it's probably about verse 60, where Matthew is talking about Jesus says that we have to, when I think it's 25:60, where he says, in that you have done it to the least of these, you have done it to me. And he's
Mhm,
talking about visiting those in prison and feeding the poor and taking care of the poor.
mhm,
That's kind
mhm,
of reiterated again in James, the second chapter of James, verses 14 through
mhm,
24. And it says, what does it profit if a man come to you naked, destitute, in need of food and clothing, and you say unto him, depart, my brother, be filled with the Spirit, notwithstanding you give him those things which are necessary. So we have an obligation as Christians to care for the physical needs of our fellow human
mhm,
beings.
mhm.
But the topic tonight, mental stability,
Absolutely, yep.
then we say, how is that? Are they going to be putting that 7-year-old child at the front door as a decoy so they can get access to everything you have
Yep.
because of your willingness to share a little of what you have?
There
Uh,
was I wish I could remember the show we were watching. I don't remember if it was a movie or a show. And they did that with kids. There was a school and someone was looking for, there's a small group of people. They went to a school. It's like, oh gosh, there's some shelter we could probably get in the school. And there were some kids in there. They used a little kid they had formed their group, but they were young adults. They were, probably high school age kids, but they sent that little kid out, wooed the adults that were there, and these kids were actually cannibals in the school. So it was kind of gross, but they sent that little kid out to lure the adults in because the adults wanted to help the kid because he looked like he was 8 or 10, and they're like, oh my gosh, well, come with us, we'll help you, and the kid's
yeah.
like, no, we're gonna once they got all the adults that were in this group in, they locked the doors and then they tried to get them all into the gym locker room area, and that's where they were, you know, getting everybody for meals. How can I put it that way?
Oh, gosh.
And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, trust nobody,
I, I think we need to address this comment by Tracy.
Okay.
And so Tracy, let me give you my opinion, and this is strictly my opinion. You can kind of toss it up in the air, see how it works for you. At the same time that we're showing what 5 police officers did to one person
Mhm.
in one day of the United States, what we're not showing is what millions of
Right.
police officers have done for tens of millions of citizens in the US that was nothing like this whatsoever.
Absolutely. Yes.
Our news system sensationalizes things and puts them way out of focus in comparison to the greater norm. And the way I can say this is if you look back, the BLM Antifa Summer of Love, remember that the news agencies said that when they were burning police cars, occupying police stations, and burning down police stations and tearing up businesses, that it was a mostly peaceful protest. So we're trying to sensationalize things because that's what makes money. So what you're seeing is an over sensationalizing of a terrible. And I don't want to diminish how significant this one particular action is. I mean, this is horrifying. It
Yeah.
should never happen. But the other thing is, it's not the norm. It's a truly abnormal thing, and that there's far more good going on than this one instance. And so we need to
Mm-hmm.
also acknowledge the fact that there's all kinds of great, fantastic, phenomenal, superior police officers out there helping little old ladies on a minute by minute basis. And you could be one of those who are doing the good. Just because there's a couple bad apples does not mean that the whole keg is bad. I'm going to turn it over, see if there's opposition to that thought process.
No opposition. You said it well, Lee. It's exactly. I agree with everything you said. I mean, you said it was one day or one instance even. What about all these, the other hundreds of good incidences that don't get reported, that don't get talked about, because what's reported now, like you said, is all the political parts of it or the sensational part of it, to got to make the story big, or we got to have, we got to make this a big deal. To Tracy, I know that it hurts the heart because, at some point you, as someone who serves community, I serve my community. So at some point, where does it, they stopped realizing that person that they were chasing and all this stuff was a human being. And I think that's the part that hurts, is because, it's like, okay, fine. You guys, you chased him down, you got him. All right. And he's there. But then it became something different. And it became this thing of like, I'm mad because you made me run. I'm mad because I went to spray you and I ended up spraying myself. And I'm mad I had to, whatever, you hurt my toe. I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to, make fun of this at all, but in some ways it's like they realized at some point that person was not a human being anymore, and it just became a toy. That's disgusting, and that will hurt your heart. And when I say that's okay, that's a normal reaction. It is going to hurt, but like Lee said, that's unfortunately that was that incident, but there are so many more that are good.
Okay, well, I think we're right at the hour now. Let me see if there's any more questions. Prepping with Sarge, you made it the whole time. Thank you so much. I can't believe it. How many times did you cough or sneeze? We've got to know. Sassy Gal, thank you so much. I mean, you bring so much to the table as far as real world experience and being able to put theory into people's mind as far as reality. Please understand that we are trying to, you remember that square. We don't know what we don't know. So we don't know how we are going to react in a post-apocalyptic world, in a post-SHTF world. But what we can say is, by having these kinds of discussions ahead of time, we can prepare ourselves, and in the military, we train so that we become autonomically responsive. And that means it's habit. Right. So one of the things we have to do is we have to train our mind for what can happen, so that when it does happen, we can become that leading voice, that authoritative voice but when I say authoritative, I don't mean dictatorial. I mean the person who is leading responsibly others towards a safer condition. And so we need to prepare. We need to think this out ahead of time and be prepared so that we can be that counselor, that shepherd, that leader that helps people survive it rationally in what's going to be a totally irrational world. I'm going to say, as I get my blessing ready from Numbers, I'm going to let Sassy Gal kind of wrap it up with the exception of that. So I'll let you close it out with the exception of the blessing.
I don't, you said a lot. I just want to encourage everyone to not be afraid of talking with people, to keep communication lines open. This doesn't have to be anything that's really hard. Or, people say, I'm not a counselor, or I'm not this. You don't really have to be. You just need to be someone who has a good ear to listen, that will listen to understand, to let the person be heard. People really these days just really want to be heard, validated in certain circumstances too. But just be someone who is listening, not trying to fix anything, to be a friend, to be friendly, to be that safe place for a person. We don't need, degrees and that kind of thing, just to be able to be someone, to be a friend in this world, because Lord knows we need some. So, so don't let that intimidate you. Just
Amen.
be that person that be approachable, and people will come to you.
Yeah. Oh gosh, absolutely. And you touched on one thing I just have to build on. If you get the chance, get Stephen Stephen R. Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh,
And
yeah,
habit
yeah,
number 5 is seek first to understand,
yeah. Yes.
then to be understood. All too
Mhm.
often, what we try to do is we try to interject before we fully understand what the other person is saying.
Mhm.
And it
Just let them
really has to
talk.
be, huh?
I said, just let them talk.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
times, just being that person that will just listen. Yeah.
And so, it's important that we understand them before we try to say we want them to understand us.
Right.
So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Sarge, for taking care of the uh, chat for us this evening.
Yes.
I've noticed you've been keeping people engaged, and that's phenomenal. So remember that we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Because as it says in Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24, 25, and 26, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace. So I wish everybody peace, and I hope that everything goes well for you, and prepare for the inevitable. Okay?
Mhm.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Amen. Bye.